Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome into Packers Total Access. My name is Clayton. You can check us out on packernet.com. Find me on Twitter at Packers_access. You can email us, PackersTotalAccess@gmail.com. You can text us 865-658-5824. Joined alongside Jacob in Wisconsin, here to talk a little Packers training camp as we have another practice in the books. Man, it was a fun day. If you guys have been hanging out with us throughout the day, Jacob and I went live. This is the third show of the day, right, Jacob?
Lucky number 3.
Yeah, people are going, do you not have a life? Yeah, we do. It's called the Green Bay Packers. You know what I'm saying? That's just the way it goes. So, but no, that was a lot of fun. I think we're going to try to do that again tomorrow because we got really good feedback. The numbers, the view count was just crazy up where we went live during the practice. So we'll probably do that again tomorrow if you're available, Jacob. I think that'd be a lot of fun, dude. But did you get anything done today? Anything productive at all?
Honestly, not really. I did a little bit of work in the garage and cleaned up the place a little bit, and that was about it. No, not much.
Yeah, me, man. We finished that afternoon show. I went out and mowed the grass, used a pole saw, got some tree limbs off a power line, and then came back in, took a shower, took a nap, woke up, and here we are again. So that was pretty much the day. So not bad.
Good day.
Live in the best country on the freaking planet to be able to have the freedom to do that, right? So. With that being said, there's a bunch of stuff to cover. I'm going to start off with Jordan Love and his comments today as he met with the media. This first one was just kind of an opening statement of him thanking the Packers and essentially just kind of acknowledging the contract, that type of thing. And then we've got another comment he made about just his development. We'll hit these two, and then we got the full contract details for Jordan Love. So here we go. Here was Jordan Love addressing the media earlier today about his new contract.
I'm truly blessed and grateful and humbled to be put in this position. It's taken a lot of hard work, dedication, and sacrifices, not only from me, but from so many people around me. I want to say thank you to the Green Bay Packers organization. Also my agents, Dave Mulugeta, Andrew Kessler, for being able to finalize this deal. I want to say thank you to my family for their love and support. They've been with me through it all. I also want to thank my teammates and coaches for being patient with me throughout this process. None of this is possible without them. I'd like to thank our fans. I feel like we have the best fans in the league, and I appreciate all their support through my time being here. But with that being said, I'm excited to have an opportunity to go out and earn this every day and prove to people who believe me right. And now I'm ready to get to work and prepare ourselves for the season ahead and chase the ultimate goal that we have of winning a Super Bowl.
Love it, man. Dude's just so humble. I love how nonchalant he is, Jacob. That dude just got $75 million direct deposited into his account and pretty much fully guaranteed $155 million. And he's just, hey, let's go get a championship. It's just, I like what Justin said in the text thread. We were just talking about how the contract lays, and at the end, there's virtually, you can get out of the dead cap at the end of the contract. And he says just $10 million. And Justin went on and be like, $10 million, like that wouldn't completely change my life, right? But
yeah,
what do you think of Jordan's statement there after the contract?
I mean, it's the epitome of what Jordan is. He's kind of nothing really gets him too excited. Nothing gets him too shook or rattled. Even like when you say you slip $75 million into his pocket, he's just like, hey, that's pretty cool. Yeah. I got some stuff I got to buy,
Get some pats like,
yeah. And I like that about him. I would like to think that if somebody, whatever, if I got 70 mil, there'd be signs.
There would be a lot of signs.
Yeah. I think he's handling it the right way. For some reason, I'm not afraid of him putting the brakes on now that he's gotten paid. If anything, I think it's going to fuel him to be more and more great. So I'm excited to see what happens.
Yeah, for sure. So he went on to talk about waiting his turn, having to sit on the bench and kind of learn and the impact that Aaron Rodgers had on his development. Here's Jordan Love once again.
I mean, you were in here, none of us really knew, no one on the outside really knew what you were going to do. And here you are, the highest paid guy in the league. A year later, how did you get to that point in just 1 year?
Yeah, I mean, it's all about the work. I've been here. I've been with the Packers. Putting in the work. I feel like in the shadows, in the background, being out there, practice every day, and trying to just work on my craft and learn. Obviously was blessed and fortunate to be behind one of the best to do it, and learn so much through my time with Aaron. you know, kind of just played the waiting game. And, you know, there's a lot of questions going into last year. And, you know, I just had to go out there with my team and be the best player I could be, and kind of, you know, have my play speak for myself. And like you said, now we're here, and it's definitely a blessing.
I mean, you were
All right, so obviously acknowledging Aaron Rodgers and learning behind him, but also just waiting. And the big thing about Jordan, man, it would have been easy to get pissed off about that. Like, one thing about Aaron Rodgers, there were all kinds of reports, and Andrew Brandt has made it abundantly clear that Aaron's camp was constantly going to Andrew Brandt and the Green Bay front office like, he's never going to play. Brett's never going to stop playing. Like, just trade us. Like, get us out of here type thing, right? And then, of course, Brett's side was coming to Andrew Brandt and them going, you know how hard it is for him to come into work every day knowing his replacement's in the room? Like, you know, so, you know, Jordan kind of felt the same type of pressure as far as having to sit behind an all-time great, and just the way he handled it, man. Didn't upset the cart, tried to stay prepared, was a good teammate, a good backup quarterback. As you guys know, the backup quarterback is pretty much the personal assistant to the starter. I don't know, man. I'm just so damn proud that Jordan Love's the quarterback of the Green Bay Packers. But. All right, let's see what else we got here. Let's move on to the contract itself. Jacob, have you dove into the contract at all yet, man? Oh, you're muted, buddy. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry. I did actually look at it right before we went live here.
What's your initial impressions?
Initially, I thought kind of what we said is I thought we'd have maybe a out if we absolutely needed to around 2026, 2027. It looks like they have it penciled in around 2027, if I'm not mistaken. And again, that's not what I want at all, but I just was trying to figure out how it all fell into play. And then we have, is it 3 voidable years on there as well?
Exactly. You know, we talked about that earlier today. Remember, we were talking about Trevor Lawrence, the structure of his contract. I think they had 3 on the backside of his contract, and that's where you can make that cap hit more palatable as you get into the latter years, because it does blimp up. And I thought it's just a hell of a job. I don't think it's exactly what Russ Ball wanted, but you can see the roadmap to what they were leading into. And like I think it was Brian Gutekunst said earlier today, and he's saying all the Mulugeta praises. He was talking about how professional they were, how easy it was to work with Jordan's agents and players first. Is that what it is? Yeah, I think it's what it is.
It's athletes first.
Athletes first, yeah. Athletes first, their agency. So it sounds like they both had to give a little bit. They probably wanted the whole thing guaranteed, right? Like every agent does. And of course, like Goody made it really, really, he was very vocal about it last week. He said, we want a deal that allows us to put talent around Jordan so we can, you know, field a competitive team for a very long time. So here are the contract details, okay? 2024, Jordan's cap hit will raise to $20.7 million. We kind of predicted that. We talked about since Kenny's dropped, we figured Jordan's would go up a touch. Kenny being Kenny Clark, of course, which was the other contract that got done right there on the eve of camp. So in 2025, the cap hit jumps to $29.7. You guys remember we were talking about between $25 and $30 million cap hit the first year that the new contract kicked in, because that was more or less the guideline that we could see through the Joe Burrow contract as well as the Trevor Lawrence contract. So that is totally doable there. Some people were going, wait a minute, he made $55 million per year. That's what they said. This is all cap allocation here. Again, when people were talking last week about the average annual value, or last week rather, that's why I try to pump the brakes and go, me as a fan, I'm not telling anyone else they have to believe this, but me as a fan, I could give 2 craps about the average annual. I want to know the cap allocation and the penalties involved in getting out of the contract if for some reason we need to get out of the contract, right? That's the top priorities to me. So in 2025, the cap hit just jumps to $29.7 million. In 2026, year 2 of the contract, it only jumps to 36.1. Jacob. 2027, it goes to 42.4. 2028, it goes to 74.2. Everybody's going, whoa, $74 million cap hit. We're going to talk about that here in a second. But notice the 3 voidable years that Jacob just mentioned. You got one in 29, 30, and 31. Okay. Now, I feel sorry for the Packer fans, and they know who they are, that seem to think that the second Aaron Rodgers was gone, we were going to stop using voidable years. The writing was on the wall, guys. This is the new NFL. Cash over cap is the future of the NFL until they close the loophole of being able to use voidable placeholder years in the contract. So in 2029, the cap penalty is 34.7, or the cap hit is 34.7. If he's not on the roster, it's 34.7. Okay. Now, in 2030, if you somehow get a deal done, the cap hit will be 14.2. That'll have to be pushed into the new contract, just like the voidable years that already existed on Jordan's contract before and Kenny Clark's as well. In 2031, there is a $6.3 million cap hit that's a part of those voidable years. So essentially what you got when you see that blimped up number of $74.2 million in 2028, look at the dead cap attached, Jacob. It's
15.
Yeah. Now, keep in mind, if you do cut him, to the best of my knowledge, that 34.7 includes the 15 million that will accelerate to 2029 because he is no longer on the team. All of that proration, that option bonus proration, has to accelerate to the current league year, which would be 2029. Essentially saying, if he was not on the roster in 2029, then your cap hit would be 34.7 million. The money that you've already allocated to him. Now, keep in mind, too, the cap hit the year before was 74.2. They'll never play with him using that cap number, first of all. But let's just pretend for a second they did. Even though you've got 34.7 million against the cap in proration and voidable years in 2029 that accelerates to that current year, you're still freeing up $40 million. So if for some reason when Jordan Love hits the age of 30 in 2028, you finish that year out and you go, all right, we don't want him back. Yes, it sucks that there's a $34.7 million cap hit sitting there and he's not even on the roster, but you just freed up $40 million to go add other key pieces. So it's not the end of the world in that regard. So again, when you look at the cap percentage allocation, and I see people arguing on Twitter about this, and the people who hate Aaron Rodgers, they're going to try their damnedest to still convince themselves that the Aaron Rodgers contract was absolutely just horrible. Aaron Rodgers had $41 million in dead cap, if I remember correctly, last year, and our hands were washed clean. He never seen $150 million. So the people were still pounding the table that he got $50 million per year. You can go back and look at the cap hits. It's a lie. It doesn't exist. It's not a thing. And what's his cap hit this year? $17 million. So it's just, it's embarrassing as a Packer fan. I don't mean to harp on it. It just drives me crazy because it's like you wanted him gone. You constantly bash the man when he refused to get a shot, and you wanted him gone, you wanted him gone, you wanted him gone. And now that he's gone, you won't stop talking about him. It just drives me nuts. So anyway, these cap, Jacob, this looks good, bro. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say the one thing that jumps off the page to me is up until you get into that kind of mythical, let's call it 2028. I don't believe that year, even like we talked about, we won't really play that year on that salary. So if you look anything before that, specifically 2024 to 2027, the cap hits are really doable. I mean, not anything that it jumps off the page, especially when you look at the cap league percentage, like you talked about. 8.13 is, I think, amazing. 10.89 is great still. Even when he goes to 36, it's only 12.3. Even when he's up to 42, let's say he plays that year, that's only 13%. I remember that, like, there's a few teams at one point, wasn't there only a few players that ever actually played and accounted for more than 20%, one single player? And I think one of them was Aaron Rodgers at one point. But that being said, that's, even if we were to play out that 2028 year with $74 million, that's only 22%. I think they did a masterful way of spreading this money out. And then I think, like we've all talked about, if we get to that 2026 range and he is playing out of his mind, I think that's, again, where Russ Ball, Goody, they go back to Jordan and we're like, hey, let's work out an extension. Let's try to make these monies fungible in a different way. And then we start this process all over again. The doubters say it'll never happen. The guys that, are confident in the team will just smile and go in the back room and smoke a cigar. And then a few weeks later, they'll come out and we'll just see an all new contract and we'll reset the cycle.
Isn't it funny? All the people who said Jordan Love's going to be a bust and there's no way that you guys can get that lucky and hit on a third straight great quarterback, they went quiet and now we're harping on, you're going to have to overpay him. You're going to have to overpay him. Then they see the contract and they go, oh, you're screwed. And then you look at these cap hits, you're like, you have no clue what you're talking about, dude. You definitely are a Chicago Bears fan because you are as ignorant as they come. So like DJ Colvin in the chat says, doesn't hit 20% until 2028, what you were pointing out, Jacob. It's huge. That's what matters is the cap allocation, that percentage of the league cap. Because that, again, how does it fit into your model? This fits in beautifully, man. All the way through 2027, it's just like, holy cow, this is perfect. Masterful job. And again, I got to give credit to Jordan. Jordan could have held their feet to the fire a little bit more too. Some people were going, "Oh, he's the highest paid quarterback in the league. What do you mean?" They could have gotten more, I believe, because the market is just nuts. It's absolute booty cheeks, man. That and like I said, I ain't gonna get back into it anyway. Past is the past. We'll leave it there. It drives me crazy, man. I know people don't want to hear me rant on that stuff. It's just it embarrasses the hell out of me as a fan when people act like that. I don't know. It just gets to me. It shouldn't either. It shouldn't. But so that is the full contract details. All right. Let's see what else we got here in the chat real quick. Want to make sure I'm not missing anything. I love it. I love it. All right.
Nothing of value.
Yeah, that's about. Like I said, DJ Colvin though, man. He said, but could be much different by that time. Lots of flexibility. I love it. There is a lot of flexibility in this for sure, man. Coach Lynn in the chat said Jordan could have 4 contracts in his first 6 years in the league. Crazy. See, that's the thing too. If he goes out and balls out, wins an MVP or Super Bowl, and just he's a legit top 5 quarterback, this is going to get revisited. You can bet your rear end it will. The question is, Jordan Love is in the driver's seat. Will he be the type of player that in 2 years he comes back and goes, "Hey, I want some more guaranteed money"? It could happen. I don't know. But that's the other thing we didn't even talk about here too, Jacob, is when you get to that 74-2 year, look at the base salary of 43.9. You can convert all of that, but the minimum spread. So let's just say $5 million. We know the minimum. It might be at the time, but right now it's not the minimum veteran minimum. But let's say, $5 million. And let's say $10 million for easy math. You could take $10 or $30 million of that base salary, convert it to signing bonus, and spread it out over those next 3 voidable years if you needed to as well. So just a lot of flexibility, man. Yeah. Absolutely. All right, cool. All right, so that is Jordan Love's contract details. Now, I want to talk about what it means from a entire team standpoint real quick, okay? So if I've got this still pulled up, I hope I've got the right thing here. Yes. Let's talk about the Packers, what we call salary cap table, okay? So this is the 2024 salary cap. How cool is it too, Jacob? Actually, before I get into this, let me do this real quick. Actually, I can pull it up on the screen while we're here. Remember we had this conversation about the top free agents? These are the things that Goody and Russ Ball are worried about right now is what players do we need to get extensions for? They're working behind the scenes to get that done before the regular season kicks off. It's been a long time since the Packers re-signed a player during the season, at least a player of significance. We said Kenny Clark and Jordan Love was at the top of the list, right? They both have contracts now. The next one could potentially be Eric Stokes, but like we said, we feel like he's underperformed. He hasn't been able to stay healthy. They'll probably let him play this year out, then revisit it at the end of the year, maybe let him test the market. We mentioned A.J. Dillon, who I think we would all agree if Marshawn Lloyd lives up to the hype that we've seen with him at USC and where I think he led the league in yards per attempt for running backs, or if not, he was definitely right there towards the top. You're probably going to let A.J. Dillon walk in free agency. If he's not willing to take another minimum contract similar to what he did this year with that unique option they used. Corey Ballantyne's a player I would like to see back for the right price, but again, that's going to be a year-to-year basis with him being 29 years old. They'll probably let him test the market, potentially bring him back depending on how he plays. He's getting slot reps now. Josh Myers is one. I think you let him test the market, and if you can't get him for dirt cheap, you just let him go and you either kick Elton Jenkins, Jacob Monk, or Zach Tom to center, and you move forward with your offensive line. That's just me personally. I think Josh Myers will warrant a pretty good paycheck on the open market too, because he does have a lot of traits. There's no doubt about that. Eric Wilson, I'd like to see back for the right price. Other than that, man, I mean, there's no one, right? Maybe Emmanuel Wilson, maybe Daniel Willem, which they're exclusive rights free agents. They're already as good as signed anyway, man. So Caleb Jones, still a restricted free agent. He'll probably be back.
They'd probably try to get Tyler Davis back. They love him.
My man, you do too, don't you?
So much. TJ Slayton, depending on what he does this year, I could see him maybe getting short, like 2-year prove-it deal or something. I don't know. Yeah, other than that, dude, that's there's a lot of guys that we just know their names simply because we're diehard Packer fans. Otherwise, you would never know who that is. I didn't realize Ballantyne was almost 30. That's crazy.
Well, yeah, it is nuts, man.
Pushing 30. Yeah.
Yeah.
But like you said, I do think Josh Myers, he's one of only 2 centers that are 6'5" that run a certain
He's a freak.
His mile markers for everything are like, yeah, their RAS is off the charts. He just never really put it together, but he'll make a lot of money somewhere. I mean, look how much money that our boy made over signing with was it Philly or was it the Giants?
I think it was the Giants, if I remember correctly. Yeah, Runyon. Yeah, because that's a part of that Hard Knocks thing too. They were real excited about signing him. I was going, I don't think they know what they're talking about. And I like Runyon. When I seen Runyon get emotional at his locker because he wanted to stay a Packer, man, it sucks, But at the same time, you got to feel the best 11 on offense, the best 11 on defense. To me, just wasn't. He started strong early in his career. He was good. It's just last couple of years, man, it really struggled. So the reason I want to pull that up there with the free agents before we hit the salary cap table is because of those free agents that we wanted back, Jordan Love, Kenny Clark, they're done. Contract's done. Next up, maybe Eric Stokes, Corey Ballantyne, a couple other players here or there that are going to be smaller contracts. Unless Eric Stokes balls out and they pay him top cornerback money, that's possible. I just don't see it personally. I wouldn't put my money on it. Let's just put it that way. So now that we know the majority of what you want to bring back is pretty much taken care of other than minimum contracts, here is the salary cap situation for 2024. Now that everything's been added in, Kenny has the highest cap hit at 26.3. And again, we talked about this. Either Kenny, they were going to shave money off of Kenny significantly and blimp up Jordan's a touch because you got so much money to work with this year, or you were going to skimp down on Jordan's this year, his cap hit, and blimp Kenny's up, right? Well, what they ended up doing was really they significantly increased Jordan's when you think about it from where it was sitting, and Kenny's, I think they dropped it down just a touch. So Kenny Clark, $26.3 million, Jair Alexander, $23.9 million. We could talk about a lot of these players and do a whole podcast on contracts, and I don't want to do that today because I want to get into the practice stuff. But Jair Alexander is another one of those players that in a year or two you can look up and go, all right, if he is not panning out, you can cut bait and free up a ton of cap room. There's a lot of cap space to be had there as well. Nonetheless, his cap hit, Jair Alexander is 23.9. Jordan Love's is 20.7. Elton Jenkins, what a steal there. 14.4 million for Big E, man. And he's fully healthy now. Preston Smith, 14.1. That's another one, Jacob. You could cut him anytime and free up some money, right? I mean, when you look at the dead cap this year, because they reworked the deal, you can't get rid of him. Obviously, the dead cap is higher than the cap hit itself, but they secured him that way by having him take a pay cut and guaranteed some more money on that, doing those restructures we talk about. Rashawn Gary, only 11.1 this year. That's wild, right? So look at Xavier McKinney, 7.8. That's going to change next year for both him and Gary, but 7.8 for one of the top safeties in the league is wild. So let's move to 2025. We talked about the players that we wanted to definitely re-sign have been re-signed now. So you're going to see how the cap looks in 2025 now. As we skip ahead, Jordan's cap hit jumps up to 29.7. Jair's is 25.8. Rashawn Gary's is 25.5. Kenny Clark, 20.3. So it actually drops down a little over $6 million. Elton Jenkins only jumps up to 17.6. Xavier McKinney, 17.6. Here we go. Preston Smith, 17.6, but look at the dead cap attached over here. Only 9.8, meaning you could cut him and free up almost $8 million. Not that you would want to. He may still be balling out with him. He's going to be drawing Social Security soon, but that dude still looked good last year playing against the runners. Josh Jacobs, $11.3 million in cap hit. You could free up a couple million if you wanted to cut bait with him. I don't think they would until at least year 3 or 4 if they're not getting the return on their investment. Keyshawn Nixon is 6.8. Lucas Van Ness, 4.7, Quay Walker, 4.4, Devontae Wyatt, 4, on and on and on. Now, I wanted to mention that because Jordan Love's under contract for 25. Kenny Clark's under contract for 25. There's no other free agents you're looking to sign. You rolled over from 2024. Let me go back real quick. I apologize. The cap space that you had is 21.2. You're rolling that into 2025. So when you look at the 2025 cap situation, the Packers right now, as it sits, are 19th in the league at $28.1 million in cap space. And they have all the players they essentially need. There's what is it Michael Lombardi says all the time? I know I'm going to butcher it. There's needs, there's wants, and there's have-tos, have-to-haves, right? The have-to-haves, they got those taken care of. Now you've got needs, right? What needs do you have to fill in your roster? None of these players, in my opinion, are like absolute needs. So what are you looking to do? Fill through the draft and test free agency, right? So you got 28.1 million to do that.
I was just gonna say, it's crazy to think that too we'd have a whole nother draft class. And the way that it's been going lately, like who knows how many, even if you get 2 or 3 studs at any given position, that extends your cap room. It is so crazy, dude, to think about it when you really take like a 30,000 feet look at it. Whereas if you hit in the draft on literally 1 to 2 or 3, but anything over that, if you're hitting on like that draft where you have 3 or 4 or 5 starters, it just solidifies the fact that you don't have to sign certain positions for certain groups for the next 3 to 5 years, depending on where you strike that gold. You know, it's awesome.
Definitely. And what's really cool is look at that dead cap number. Now, if they decide to cut bait with someone, obviously that's going to increase. But right now it's only 7.9 million, man. Pretty impressive. So,
yeah, that's really
and again, that's the 11th best. I don't know if it's 11th highest or 11th best. I shouldn't say that. The 19 definitely represents the 19th most cap space, but I'm wondering if the dead cap might be 11th most in the league. Because, 2025, it is, it's a full year away. But when you jump into 2026, and again, we're getting ahead of ourselves because we don't even know who's going to be on the roster exactly, but 66.9 million, keep in mind, that's assuming the cap increases at a normal rate and it doesn't take a huge jump like it did last year. Because typically what Spot Track does is they just kind of bake in the average increase on the salary cap. And I know there's some people that are worried about the Sunday ticket thing. I personally don't think that's going to be an issue. I really don't. I could be wrong. I may look up in a few years and go, dang, it bit them in the rear end. But just diving into the details of it, it's way more complex than some people are making it sound. Some people are making it sound like it's just real simple that, this bar owner screwed everything up and it's going to screw the Packers and they ain't going to be able to, field a team and they're going to have to cut everybody and the salary cap's going to drop significantly. It's a little deeper than that. It goes back to some rules, some broadcasting rules that were put in place all the way back to the 60s. And when you really dig deep at how the NFL handled the Sunday ticket thing, guys, I bought it every year. I didn't complain about the price. I thought it was money well spent. So I'm not coming from that angle. I'm just simply saying some of the stuff they did behind the scenes was pretty damn shady. Anyone who thinks it's just very cut and dry on the surface, I challenge you, dig a little deeper. There was a couple podcasts that Ross Tucker did with a guy that was talking about, and Ross Tucker was defending the NFL pretty extensively, but I learned a lot of stuff from the other side there that I didn't know about. But I don't want to waste too much time on that here on the show, obviously. So there you go. There's your salary cap table for the next 3 years. Again, I think we're sitting pretty. You got the most important pieces in place and plenty of cap room to work around there. So if you run into anybody on Twitter, on X, that are going, oh, the Packers are screwed now, look at this huge contract, don't even respond. Don't waste your time. It's not worth it. So there is the salary cap info. Now, Jacob, let's get into some practice, man. That sound good to you?
Let's do it.
All right, so we talked about this earlier on our live stream. We'll just briefly hit on it. Andy Herman tweeted out the starters in team activity where they came out in 12 personnel and matched it with base defense of a 4-3 look. It was Jordan Love, Josh Jacobs in the backfield. You had Romeo Doubs and Dontavian Wicks. You had Luke Musgrave and Ben Sims at tight end. Obviously, with Tucker Kraft still trying to recover from the pec injury. On the offensive line, you had Walker, Ryan. You had Jenkins at center in place of Josh Myers, who was out again for a second straight day with personal reasons. Jordan Morgan once again at right guard, so it seems like he's starting to settle in there a little bit. And then we had Kadeem Telford at right tackle. On defense, from left to right, from the defense's perspective, you had Rashawn Gary at defensive end, TJ Slayton, Kenny Clark in the middle, and Preston Smith on the opposite edge there at right end. At the linebacker position, you had Isaiah McDuffie, Quay Walker, and Eric Wilson as your backers. Quay running Mike. It sounds like they are really thinking that Quay is going to be the Mike this year. At corner, you had Eric Stokes and Jair Alexander. At safety, you had Xavier McKinney and Javon Bullard. So that was who kind of marched out there during base. Now, keep in mind, when they went to nickel, it sounded like Edgerrin Cooper was back on the field again. So here are some of the updates. What I tried to do, Jacob, I know we followed it live for about an hour, and then we kind of went offline. I tried to pick up where we left off, and it sounded like, the offense was struggling when we were keeping up earlier.
Yeah, it didn't look too hot, but I definitely know that as soon as we logged off, it seems like as soon as we log off the last few days, that's when the magic starts happening. So be careful. As soon as we log off tonight, who knows what's going to happen. But, yeah, it sounds like the offense picked up for sure.
Definitely. So here we go. Andy Herman, there's a series of tweets. I'm going to start at the bottom. To the best of my knowledge, those are the tweets that came out first. It said, there's the Jordan we know and love. Off play action, finds Reed in stride for a pickup of about 10 to 15 yards. Next tweet, Love heating up. Nice ball over the middle to Watson for about 15. Looks like there was an illegal formation on the offense again, though. Next tweet, Jaden Reed with a sick move off a pop pass to get extra yards. Andy Herman always refers to it as a pop pass. I've always heard it called a touch pass, and I've heard other people call it a shovel pass. It's essentially used jet motion or flyer motion. They come across right in front of the quarterback, ball snapped to the quarterback, and he just tosses it forward to the wide receiver, the whatever you want to call it, the jet, the flyer, cross it in front of him. It's technically a forward pass and counts as passing stats, but it's essentially a running play. But they love to use that, and obviously Jaden Reed is as good as anyone in the league. As a matter of fact, I've got a video that I'll play here in just a second as we're talking, Jacob, and you'll see that pop pass. I believe it was Baz that got that, Basarski Productions, and then also some of the other videos we shared was Wes Hodkowitz. But Andy Herman also said Love drops down sidearm to complete the Dobbs over the middle. The rust is gone. And then it says Love shows his ability to escape the rush, something that's been missing the past few days. He retreats out of the pocket and finds Jacobs for a positive pickup. That would have been a sack the past few practices. So Jordan Love making a big difference as opposed to your Sean Cliffords and your Michael Pratts and of course your Jacob Easons there, being able to manipulate the pocket a little bit. So Jacob, that's good info, right, man? Love was starting to heat up a bit.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to see it. Glad to see it. It sounds like he got a little even more dialed in as it went on.
Definitely. So I'm going to pop these up and we'll keep this looping in the background. Andy Herman went on to tweet, Love with a gorgeous bomb to Watson. Stokes running with him, but Watson faster. Watson makes the sliding catch. Awesome throw and catch. Huge play. And then he went on to tweet, Love to Dobbs for a touchdown. Offense finally has something to celebrate. Fantastic drive by Love and company. 10 was dealing. So, again, that connection to Romeo Dobbs in the red zone is going to continue, Jacob. There's no doubt about that, man.
That must have been the sequence of plays that Paul Brettel kind of summarized into one tweet here. He said, second attempt at the 2-minute drill for the offense comes up with a 6. He said 1:35 left on their own 30, a 10. So Jordan Love to Watson for 45 yards, Stokes in coverage. Then Love to Musgrave for 5 yards, Love to Musgrave for 8. And then first and goal from the 10, Love to Dobbs for a touchdown. So just started getting back into the rhythm and picking them down the field. That just, I'm so excited.
Yeah, here's the pop pass, shovel pass, touch pass, whatever you want to call it. Call it bunk bed. I don't care. Here we go. Watch it. You'll notice Jaden Reed is the receiver closest to us right here. He's playing flyer. Motion. Boom. Look at the quickness, dude. Whoop, little juke. Hit that right stick on him. You know what I'm saying, Jacob?
Mm-hmm.
Love it. Love it. So, obviously, Jaden Reed, I think, is going to be a phenomenal player in this league, man. That's another reason why it's like don't get too aggressive with Romeo Dobbs and Christian Watson in their contracts, right? There's a diving interception from Quay we'll talk about here in a minute, but you don't want to get too aggressive with those two guys because you got Wicks and Reed coming up right behind them. And I'm telling you, man, that could be a recipe for keeping that wide receiver cap hit even lower if you don't jump too deep into the pool trying to sign one of those two guys to an extensive contract. And you guys know I've been pretty vocal. I think you get out a year ahead of that. Offer them both a similar contract that's very team-friendly that gets them guaranteed money in their pocket. I think Dobbs, being a later-round pick, would be more enticed to accept that as opposed to Christian Watson, who's already made a significant amount of money being a second-round pick, and also would probably warrant, with his traits, a lot more activity on the free agent market. But up next here, Emmanuel Wilson. Andy Herman tweeted out, Emmanuel Wilson with another big run, something that's becoming a habit for him, picked up about 25 on the play. Jacob, I know many people don't want to talk about it, but if you do go with 3 running backs, which we broke camp with last year, I'm telling you, man, if you had told me Emmanuel Wilson won't make it to the practice squad, I think I would rather have him over A.J. Dillon. But the problem is Emmanuel Wilson probably will make it to the practice squad, and there's no way A.J. Dillon would. Someone would swoop him up. So how do you feel about that between Emmanuel Wilson and A.J. Dillon early in camp here, man?
I don't like to think about it. It is one of those things, man. I think that it could be a possibility because we're so thick at all the positional groups that it's hard to justify keeping
thick.
We rarely do. If I'm not mistaken, it seems like LaFleur likes to play a lot of the chess moves with that 53 and the practice squad and all that kind of stuff. So I don't know. If you had to make me choose, what's the contract situation? Do you know? They're similar, right? They're basically both.
Well, that's the thing too. Emmanuel Wilson, he is an exclusive rights free agent next year, so you've got him back, no problem. AJ Dillon will be able to test the market. So
Right.
Makes sense. And here's the thing: AJ tested the market, and he was real vocal that he got better offers from other teams than the Packers, but he chose to stay in Green Bay. Of course, we all know that his wife and her family are from the area, right? They're Door County royalty, if you will. So, so that's kind of how that sits. It's like pay AJ Dillon a little bit more money if he does have a big year and he tests the market. Probably going to get a decent payday at the running back position. If he has another year like last year, probably bring him back on a minimum contract. But I don't think anybody wants him to have a year like he did last year. So
yeah.
I want to say he averaged less than 4 yards a carry, if I remember correctly. Right? It was like 3.8 or something like that. So hopefully the trimmed down, more muscular version will break out in this offense this year. So let's switch to the defensive side of the ball. Anything else you want to add on offense there? First of all, Jake, anything else, bro?
Not off the top of my head, no.
Okay, we'll talk about the offense as we wrap up because they did win the day with the red zone drill, and But let's go to the defensive side of the ball. Paul Bretl tweeted this out. He quote tweeted an earlier tweet from July 26. Says 4 practices in, and the Packers are rotating often at safety. An opportunity to evaluate each player, but also an opportunity to get everyone comfortable playing with each other at a position where versatility and movement is key. Now, he quote tweeted that from July 26 with today's tweet and said, Evan Williams on the autonomy McKinney has on the back end of the defense. Quote, whenever we're on the field, pre-snap, we'll just communicate who's going down. If he wants to be high on this play based on personnel and situation and stuff. So, Jacob, they're buzzing on the fly, bro. And what I mean by buzzing is when you talk about like a cover 3 buzz, that means a deeper safety. If you're showing a too high shell pre-snap, one safety buzzes into the box. That's what you call cover 3 buzz, where they're playing that mid hook zone, buzzing down in towards the box. But on top of that, if you play a little cover 1 robber, you'll have the safety buzz in and play that short little drop zone. Some people would refer to it as rat, although typically rat is sinking out from the line of scrimmage into the hole, kind of like a cover 1 hole with a backer dropping into coverage. But this is pretty cool that they're giving McKinney all this freedom to, literally seconds before the ball snap, Jacob. It sounds like McKinney is going, looking over at a rookie in Evan Williams and going, hey, I'm going to buzz here. I'm going to go get this. You know what I mean? That's pretty sweet. So,
yeah.
So obviously that's exciting about Xavier McKinney and what he's doing with that safety room. And some people are going, well, it was Evan Williams mentioning that. How's Javon Bullard doing? You just wait. We're going to get to that here in a second. That dude, you guys heard us talk about it. It was Jacob's draft crush. He's the one who found him and said, hey, you guys need to take a look at this Javon Bullard kid. We all watched the tape and went, yep, that might be the dude we need right there. And I got ridiculed for this, and I'm standing by my comment, but I said he reminds me of Nick Collins. And that he's thick line, this right here.
Thick.
That's who he was talking about was Javon Bullard. And when we talked about him being a little bit thick, it just looks like Nick Collins, man. He plays in the box like Nick Collins. He can play in coverage. That's who I thought of. It doesn't mean he's going to be on that same level of player, but I was in Lambeau Field for Nick Collins' very first game. Me and Mandy drove all the way up from Tennessee, and we were just dating at the time, if I remember correctly. Let me think here. I may be getting the time. No, yeah, we were definitely just dating. So we drove up, and I remember sitting in the stands, and the very first play from scrimmage, I looked at her and I went, that Nick Collins kid is the fastest guy on the freaking field. He was just everywhere. I'm like, and this is a dude from Bethune-Cookman College. Who the hell is this? So I'm singing high praises of Javon Bullard. That's who it reminds me of, man. But let's go to one of his rookie teammates here, which also came out of the SEC there with Texas A&M. Andy Herman tweeted out, Edgerrin Cooper all over the place today. Another stop on a quick completion from Clifford over the middle. So, again, you didn't see Edgerrin Cooper in the starting lineup, but, guys, that doesn't mean anything, right? It's funny. Jarrell Lee said it too, didn't he? My boy Javon Bullard, second coming of Nick Collins. That's awesome. But Edgerrin Cooper it seems like he is on the starting defense when they go to their nickel 4-2-5, starting alongside Quay. It kind of feels like one of those things, Jacob, where they're just holding Edgerrin Cooper back a little bit, and then they're just going to turn his ass loose as you get later in camp. Does it not feel like that, man?
It does. And I mean, I watched another interview with him too, and he talked about a guy. He just seems so hungry and aggressive and just like willing to. He looks like just a sponge that's really willing to soak up anything and anything that the coaches can give to him. And I really do think that he's going to eventually take over into one of those starting roles. I don't know where he's going to fit in, but it's another position group where I'm just so glad we have actual depth, like real actual depth. And you talked about we can swap guys in if we're doing that 4-3, base looker. If we want to jump into the nickel 4-2-5, I think that's probably where we're going to see more of his talents. And I can't wait until they set him on the first blitz, man, because I really do think that dude, I see Micah Parsons style from him where he is just that explosive.
Yeah, I completely agree, man. Completely agree. So in the chat here, Ron Sample says, I love to hear the Bullard talk. Well, you're about to get it right now, my friend. Coach Lynn also said, how many times has Bullard played post safety? I have no idea, Coach. Jacob, do you know whether he's playing more post? Because it sounds like McKinney is very fluid and McKinney makes the final call, meaning if it's, let's say it's going to be a cover one, like a cover one, let's call it a cover one robber. It sounds like McKinney has the freedom to go, hey, I'm robbing here. I mean, I'm going to buzz. I'm going to get down in the box here. Or looking over to them and going, hey, you go this time. I'm going to drop and play post. And it might like his matchup with a certain slot look, or maybe it's a 3-by-set or something along those lines. Have you heard anything, Jacob, about whether Bullard's been playing a lot of post?
Not about if he's if coach is asking about specifically in training camp here, no. But I know if he's talking about the PFF lineups, that was one of his great things is that he was one of those where he had like 300 snaps here, 300 snaps there, 300 snaps in the slot, a few off the edge. Like he was everywhere.
Yeah, and then in 2022, he played in the slot the majority of the time, right? So 2022, a lot of slot snaps. And then like Jacob said, he was all over the joint, man. There was a couple of times he lined up on the defensive line. It was just, he was just all over the place because you could tell he's a natural ball player, man. I'll never forget that draft day reaction too when they drafted Bullard. And he said, I'm a effing Packer. Screaming. We played it live on the show, and I didn't even realize he said it. I thought he said something else. I found out later. I let an F-bomb roll on the show. My bad, y'all.
He said his mom yelled at him too, though, so that's cool.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
And the big thing too, when Hafley was talking about him being thick, he also said he's really intelligent, very, very high IQ. Now you go back to the locker room and remember the beat reporters asking him, "Are you getting comfortable in the defense?" He said, "I hate that freaking word because the second you're comfortable, you're losing your job, and I ain't even got a job yet." Like everything about the dude just screams he's a real deal, man. So let's get to his updates today. Andy Herman tweeted out, Javon Bullard pick 6. Eason threw it. Rookie safety is having a huge day. So we got a pick 6 today in camp. And then also Andy Herman said, Javon Bullard pops Musgrave after a play. Not dirty, but Musgrave felt that one. Defense fired up after that play. Bullard balling out today. So you see him laying the thump, probably buzzing down on the tight end just a touch there and popping Musgrave. Nothing dirty about it. And then obviously the pick 6 that Eason threw. Javon Bullard, man. Jacob, Bub, if he turns out to be a damn good football player, I'm going to go on the record and say I'm buying you a Javon Bullard jersey just because you caught it, man. So you guys hold me to that. Remind me later in the year if we look up and go, this dude is a top 5 safety in the league. Let's just say top 10. If we warrant him a top 10 safety, whether it's a PFF grade or maybe picks or something like that, I'm gonna buy Jacob a jersey. So
tell you what,
I love it. Terrell Lee. Bull, I can hear the fans now. You know it, man.
Yeah.
You know it.
Yeah.
Antonio Universe says Bullard is going to be a bully on the under. He's a nickel/strong safety tweener. I see him more as a strong safety than I do a post as well. But the beautiful thing is he's got all the tools and the traits to play post. It's just Xavier McKinney's a much taller safety. You'd like to see him playing more post and Bullard using that. Again, we talked about on the tape, Jacob, his tackling ability, or as Bobby Boucher would say, tackling fuel.
Tackling fuel.
I love how he plays with the right leverage. And what I mean by that is he knows where his help is. You can see it all over the college tape. He knows which half of the player, which half of the ball carrier to attack.
Right.
And that's something that's so underrated in the league or it's actually rare in the league, believe it or not. How many times we've seen someone, you've got two defenders on your outside shoulder, and for whatever reason, you're trying to attack the outside, allowing him an escape route inside. He does that really well, in my opinion.
When's the last time you heard an Atari Bigby reference, let alone two within a second here of each other? Greg Rice says, I hope one of the guys turns out to be a thumper like Atari Bigby. And then just a few seconds later, Blake B says, out there hitting like Atari Bigby.
I love it. Dude, Atari Bigby was a blast to watch, man.
He was awesome.
He played the game the right way. He really did. I wonder what he's doing nowadays. I'm sure he's successful in whatever he's doing, man. But I'm telling you, he would bring the thunder. I don't know why, and I could be misremembering this, but the playoff win over the Seahawks in the blizzard at Lambeau, you guys remember that year Brett Favre was still here? I think it was his final year. Seems like Bigby laid the thump several times in that game during that blizzard. I might have to go watch that game tonight. That's one of my favorite all-time Packer games. But yeah, so pretty cool when you start tying past Packers to current players, man. That's a blast. If you guys would take a quick second, hit that like button for us so other Packer fans can find this channel and find this content. Feel free to sub to the channel. We'll be going live pretty much daily, giving you guys camp news, updates, stuff like this. And obviously all year long, we do post-game shows. We do pre-game shows. We do mid-game. We don't do mid-game shows. We probably should, though. That'd be fun. You'll get a lot of content on this channel, but we appreciate y'all jumping on board with us here for sure. All right, last thing here. Wes Hockowitz says 2-minute time begins with KC about that pressure. So Kenny Clark getting pressure in the 2-minute drill. Sound like he's looking good today as well. Kenny Clark is going to make this defense go. We were pretty vocal about it earlier and in past episodes here, where the big thing with the defensive front is it's great to have studs all over the place, but what you're looking for ideally is a 3-tech that can put pressure on the quarterback right in his face, and an edge defender, a wide 9 that can put pressure on the quarterback. And what that does is where you've got a defender in between both of you, it's damn near impossible for them to be able to double team block both of those guys. Well, you got Kenny Clark, right? And again, he had his career high in sacks last year, if I remember correctly. Combined sacks, he was 10th in the league amongst defensive tackles, so pretty solid year there. That's definitely his strength is the pass rush. Now he's going to predominantly be playing one-gap pressure. So with that one-gap look, you got him opposite Rashawn Gary. Rashawn Gary in his hand in the dirt, they're saying he's looking like an absolute beast this year. That's how you're going to really get pressure on quarterbacks, man. So that's pretty exciting stuff. Kenny Clark, anything you want to add there, Jacob?
No, man. It's just I'm trying not to get it too geeked out, but on paper, we've got so many studs at every position. It's like you could argue if Gary has a great year, that means that he could be top 5 in the league at his position. If Kenny has a great year, you could argue it's top 10 in his position. Wyatt, I think, could be a top 10 pass rushing D tackle. We haven't talked about the fact that Preston is like arguably one of the most steady Eddie DNs in the league. If Van Ness even takes a small step, and Igbare, Brenton Cox, that D line could be really, really good, man. If Slayton's the run stuffer, just the big meat, the old grave digger. Oh, we haven't talked about Carl Brooks yet, dude. I'm just pumped.
Just the tip, though.
You know what I'm saying? Just the tip of the iceberg here. So, all right. Last thing, pretty cool. The offense ended up winning the day there at the end. They do their rear end. They do their practice injury drill for rear end. You know where my mind's at, but it says practice. This is Rob Demoski tweeted out. Practice number 5 goes 2 hours on the dot. Love first day is also the first win for the offense. Push-ups for the defense. So the defense had to do push-ups today. I think they tie that to the last 2-minute drill. So it sounds like they end up going down the field and scoring, which is really cool. So there you go, man. Things looked up a lot better for the offense after we went off the air during our live coverage. And again, we're going to, I think what we should do, Jacob, tomorrow is try to plan it maybe a few minutes later, maybe go, what we do, we did 10:45 your time, didn't we?
Yeah. It seemed like they didn't quite get on the field until.
Why don't we do 11 o'clock your time? That way we've already got practice notes that are rolled in. We'll do it that way. I think that would be the better way. So, again, as we look at the training camp schedule here, tomorrow practice will kick off 10:30 Central Time. So we're going to go live at 11 o'clock Central Time tomorrow morning and give you guys kind of a live show during training camp practice, give you all the updates. And then what we'll end up doing is we'll go live again tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Central, and just kind of recap everything that we may or may not have learned throughout the day. So, There you go, Jacob. Anything else you want to hit on, bub?
No, man, I'm excited for the progression. I mean, think about how much this offense changed. It did change with Jordan Love. And just like the season, it took a little bit. It's a few, couple series, a couple times where you're like, ooh, that's a bad pass. He even threw an interception. At one point, I believe Love was 0 for 5 with an interception. And me and Clayton told y'all, hey, this is going to happen. Take it with a grain of salt. Don't think that the sky's falling. So everybody did good today. I think so, at least in this chat. I saw a comment in there. I'm not going to go find it, but somebody said there's been a lot of shows focusing on the negativity and all that. Glad that we weren't, kind of thing. And it's not that we didn't, I think it's just better to focus on why choose to be angry right now? Why focus on the haters? Love is happy. We got everybody under contract that we need. This team is just set for an absolute stars the limit type season. Everybody's in good position now. Everybody's in good spirits. Tomorrow we get another full padded practice. We'll see you in the morning. It's going to be a great day.
Yeah. And I'll just say this about the negativity. If you're looking for a podcast, if you're looking for a show that's like really harps on the negative stuff, and I don't mean any disrespect, this is not the show for you. It is not. Like, we try to key in on the positives. We say what happened and why it happened. We'll do post-game shows after losses, and we'll tell you what went wrong. We'll do, our Chalk Talk episodes where we'll show you exactly what went wrong in a loss, breaking down the X's and O's. Here was the play call. Was it the player? Was it bad scheme? All those things. But we are not going to harp on the negative. There's a lot of podcasts out there that like to do these, especially geared around the Aaron Rodgers stuff. They love to just kind of that shock jock talk. Let's just get everybody all pissed off and arguing, and we'll get everything. And that is not what we do here at all. We try to look at it from the organizational perspective, from the coach's perspective, and the player's perspective of what exactly are they trying to accomplish. That's why we took half the show today breaking down the salary cap, going, okay, feels like most of the contracts are in place now. Let's cue in on ball now. Now we're going to really key in on ball. If a contract does surprise us, we'll pop up, we'll cover it. But we're talking about the future, and we're looking at everything from a positive perspective. We're always going to do that. Guys, I may not be here tomorrow. Something tragic may happen, and someone's life ends. I'm not going to waste my damn time 1 second being overly negative about anything. It's just not worth it. And if I get dubbed, and I have been dubbed this, there's been people that used to watch the show religiously, and they would hit me up on Twitter. They never DM you. It's funny how that works. They want the whole world to see it. They'll just tag you and go, you're all sunshine and rainbows, nothing negative. Cool. Bye. I'm not going to live like that, man. It's real simple. So it is what it is, and it's all that it is. So, all right, a couple of starred here. Sean in the chat. Sean Farva says, Big B led the pack in interceptions that year too. I'd be fine if Bullard did that. That would be absolutely phenomenal. Greg Rice said 20 got a roughing the passer called that I think was against Eli in the playoff that I still think was a bad call. I think I remember that.
I think I do too.
Blitz, yeah, roughing the passer. And then Jarrell Lee, Xavier McKinney was walking up to the line like he was Charles Woodson, so ready for week one. It's been a while since you could say anyone remotely reminds you of Charles Woodson. That dude was an absolute stud. And we've been lacking that, man, at the safety position. It's a very important position, obviously. So, Eric Sutherland says, sunshine and rainbows, that's all, Jacob. Oh, and the unicorns, too.
And unicorns, yeah, and unicorns.
Oh, man. All right. With that being said, we're out of here, guys. Really, really appreciate everybody hanging out with us. Let's see what Allison said here real quick. Allison said, I like to watch A-Rod trying to get them to the playoffs and run to Super Bowl, a team that hasn't gotten there for a while. And I'm Packers. All right, cool. So she said I'm rooting for both teams. I think she's referring to the Jets, isn't she, Jacob? Mm-hmm. That's how I am now. Like since there's no draft picks attached,
no 65%. I don't give a crap. Go on.
Right. You can say there's no 65%, but it's always
65%. 65%. That's what we
always exists in our hearts. You know what I'm saying? So, but I'm kind of pulling for the Jets. I want to see them put it together. And I like how they've been very vocal on social media. They don't care what anybody thinks. They're willing to speak their mind. I appreciate and respect that, no matter whether it's opinion I disagree with or not. I think that everybody should have the freedom to stand up for what they believe in, as long as it's not hurting anyone else. So I kind of like that about that organization too. Now, don't get me wrong. They have been a trash organization. There's no doubt in that. But, all right, we're out, guys. Really appreciate everybody. We'll see you tomorrow morning. What time did I say, Jacob? Remind me again.
11 o'clock Central Time.
11/12. All right, so 11 a.m. Lombardi time. That's Central. I like that Lombardi. That's cool. So we'll see you guys then. Y'all have a wonderful evening. Appreciate y'all supporting the show. For those of you listening on the pod, thank you for making us a part of your day. As always, let's go out and be the change we want to see in the world. And go Pack Go.